change? What, in your experience of your daily life, what happens there?
Outwardly, to those around me, I would say that there wouldn't be any outward change, very much observable, but the way in which I inwardly view things and people was different, trying to understand the sense of all was one, and that it was I as consciousness who looked through the eyes of all others, and to try and get that feeling, because we're so conditioned to individuality and to separateness. It takes a while for these boundaries and these barriers or battle lines to dissipate, so as that. But in the everyday sense of working life, I suppose it was in the inner feeling, in my intimate inner feelings, that the greatest change was, especially of more peace, more not so much dominated by the theatre and the mind, the thinking process. I began to feel more of as the observer of the thinking process rather than it dictating to me.
You have a feeling of involvement, or from then on, or?
Yeah, I don't know if it's an involvement. Like, I feel that consciousness doesn't evolve, and because consciousness awareness is, it's not dependent on anything, it's prior to everything.
So it's not moving.
Yes, it doesn't need something to happen for it to evolve. The change that takes place is in the psyche of the supposed individual, or the person, or the person, where the not knowing and what was formerly second-hand information, what I learned from others or from reading, as my friend John Moriarty calls it, having a second-hand head, very nice. Then it became more intuitive.
What is your experience when you like in a practical sense, like right now or so? Where is thought? Is you said a thought is not as strong anymore in your experience?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the sense is that thoughts retreat a bit, like you walk out into a garden, the visual or thought? What happens? Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah. It's not about thought change coming about in the thinking process, because I used to think that I was the thinker of the thoughts, which most people do. But of course, this is ridiculous. Absolutely. Because then you'd be able to tell me about all the thousands of thoughts that you've had already today. And if you intended to think those thoughts. Thinking is an automatic process. It does not require a thinker. And thoughts are a self-activating process, generally one thought arising in association with the last. And each thought brings up a body sensation. So we either generally react or respond, mostly react to that body sensation, creating another thought in its own likeness. So this is a self-perpetuating process. So in a sense, consciousness becomes the victim, or the awareness becomes the victim of the thinking process. And so
it's falling into, what can I say, it's like watching a good movie, and you
in a sense,
you get infected almost by it. And,
in a sense, yes.
And it's you.
Yeah, like peace of mind is not true. Peace is from the mind. Mind will always be in motion. Thought is a movement and conscious, and mind, as we generally understand it, means motion, means movement.
Yeah.
So peace is not of the mind, peace is from the mind.
Yeah. But in your awareness now, like in your daily life, you go shopping or so, there's thought, as everyone has thought, I assume.
There are thoughts, yeah.
And but what's the difference? They are more in the background, or what's your actual experience? You know, like I mean, what usually happens to me, like I go shopping or whatever I do, and I go for a few steps, and thought kicks in, and I think about the other things which I have to do over the day, or about my children and so on. And I seemingly get taken away by them, and I lose the awareness of where I am, like physically standing actually. Is that? Could you say something about how your experience of something like that would be? This kind of daydreaming which we all do.
That's right. That's generally when I'm reacting to the thoughts, because then I'm engaging.
Yeah.
If I'm responding, it's a completely different thing, because that's like a stepping back. Remember that awareness, aliveness, beingness is not dependent on thought at all. It is prior to thought. It is the background in which thought exists. Like there's gaps between the thoughts. So what is in the gaps between the thoughts? And the me feeling arises only with thought, no me. Like already today you have been about 2,000 me's or more.
Yeah.
Thousands of me's. So which me are you? Memory gives the feeling that the me is consistent. But that's just because of memory, which is another thought. So once one becomes aware of that and starts to understand that that is a responding, then that one remains more as the observer to the thinking process rather than the victim of it. Because remember that thought and actions is all an automatic happening. It's a universal happening. One of the difficulties people have really is in not realizing that there is no separate individual autonomous entity or a person who acts, who thinks, who is responsible. That's an illusion. That's part of the illusion created by thought and memory.